Shall we start with the penalty shootout itself and then work backwards? Does that make sense?
Like a Tarantino thing, just flash back and forward.
Just flash back and forth.
Yeah, I'll do whatever you want. I don't care.
Yeah, okay. Like I'm trying to think of. Is it Seamus Heaney? The writer Seamus Heaney, he like sort of jumping back and forth and really confusing people for no good reason, in my humble opinion. Bad Seamus Heaney. Lovely penalty from Jude Bellingham, has to be said. I think that was my pick of the bunch because they were quite erratic and at some points pretty good, the penalties in the penalty shootout, Luke.
It was one of the more dramatic penalty shootout examples. I think if you were going to kind of roll out an example to people who are learning about penalty shootouts for the first time, you could use this one as the kind of example of everything that can possibly happen in a penalty shootout, just to be mindful of all the events that are technically possible. It was a remarkable drama. I mean, it was a very tense game, wasn't it? Anyway, and then we'll come on to the game, but the shootout itself. I was very, very surprised to see how quickly they VAR'd that double hit from Julian Alvarez and then just didn't communicate that to the stadium. That's quality, That's absolute class. Like, you probably pay a load of money to go to that game. Shall we tell them what's happening? Nah,
don't bother. I mean, so Alvarez slips, gets it under the bar. It was a worrying
It turned into
finish.
An amazing penalty by accident.
Yeah, it turned into one of the best penalties you've ever seen in your life. But I think as he was sort of turning back to the rest of his Madrid teammates, he was probably a little bit like, I hope they thought that was deliberate, because it really wasn't. He did slip, and he did touch the ball twice.
So I think initially I was looking for his standing foot to be nudging the ball
and then kicking it with the kicking foot.
But he kicks it over his other foot.
Yeah, if nothing else, it was really skillful. It was
I've made that sound like he's got 3 feet. He's kicked it over his standing foot,
right?
And that's why it's been ruled out. And then what we were treated to as confirmation that it had been ruled out is the referee just stood there waving his arms around,
pointed at both of his feet, which was supposed to tell everybody from wherever they were sat or stood, more likely, in the Metropolitano, that's what had happened. It really needed to be explained, because I'm sure there are people leaving that stadium now going, I still don't know how we're not in this
just thinking
still.
They can't count.
No, good point. So yeah, I mean, it did go to a penalty shootout. Extra time, probably. I'm trying to think what happened in extra time. I think Soloth had an air shot. That's all I can remember that actually happened in that.
There was
full
an
half an
amazing
hour.
piece of play in extra time where Jan Oblak smashed the ball up.
He was
Correa.
Very good at delivering balls all night, to be fair.
And Correa's first touch is one of the best first touches I've ever seen. It was like an absolutely immaculate first touch. And he plays it across the penalty, across the kind of 6-yard box rather than shoot. I just feel like, even though the stakes are high and even though you've got to make the right decision at all times, with that touch, you've earned the right to have a pop. I don't care what the angle is. You've carved the right out to have a shot and it didn't come to anything. So it's obviously now going to be forgotten. But there was obviously a penalty in normal time as well. Mbappe was brought down, definite penalty. I mean, the guy kind of almost like ankle taps him like a rugby tackle. And then Vinicius, who had a very, very strange night. Like, it was almost remarkable how poor he was. He became so poor at one point that other players, his own players, were just shouting at him, and he blazed his penalty. It wasn't even close. It's
very hard to get that hard under the ball at a penalty position, I would say, and he blazed it 420 full into the stand. It was really good stuff. But it was very funny for Real to take off Vinny seconds before the end of the match. Like, sort of saying, sorry, Vinny, not only do I not want you on penalties, I actually want you to go home as well. Can you not? Can you just go straight down the tunnel and go home? I want you as far away from this penalty shootout. Perhaps Vinny, like, having a go at the penalties might have made it a little bit more sensible. I don't know. Well, he is usually pretty good at pens.
Maybe he's just got straight on a plane to Saudi. But yeah, because the last penalty to be taken was by Tony Rudiger, and it was a poor one. I mean, Oblak should have been all over that. He should have been all over it, and the fact that it just crept in was really, really like disheartening, to say the least, for Atletico. But it was a night of penalties. It was a night of real drama. It felt to me that the game itself was really tense. Like people just didn't want. You got into a situation where even really big players, Bellingham, the aforementioned Vinicius Junior, even Mbappe, quite flat, not really being able to make things happen. But what happened is really what always happens, i.e. Real Madrid just find a way. They squeak past teams. Like last year when they won it, obviously they beat Borussia Dortmund in the final. You know, it was, maybe I misremembered it, but it was kind of fairly kind of comprehensive. But throughout the knockout phase, they squeezed past Leipzig, they squeezed past Man City on penalties. Tony Rudiger took one in that shootout as well, I think. They squeezed past Bayern Munich. You know, and sooner or later you just think, oh, they're going to run out of road. They cannot keep doing this. They were flat, like I said tonight. Yet they still just about find a way. It's just kind of what they do. And we're recording this episode too early as well because we need to be another probably hour or so before Simeone properly finishes breaking shit.
Yeah,
he's playing Limp Bizkit and stay in the dressing room right now.
He didn't disappear down the tunnel like he usually does. He very much kind of did some mad claps, sort of well done. Yeah. In my light, well done.
I like that. Like a lot of football players and managers are very impressive people within their sphere, right? They have to deal with incredible amounts of pressure. They achieve a lot. The trophy winning ones are amazing, really, and yet they cannot help just resorting to really basic sarcasm when things don't go their way.
Yeah,
like clapping and all that kind of stuff.
I completely agree.
I fear for anyone who gets in Diego Simeone's way, including his own son, to be honest, because he got away with one. When I saw Atlético against PSG earlier in the season, Diego Simeone's son Giuliano got nutmegged right in front of him. I just thought that's going to make for terrible dinner conversation tonight. And then tonight he got away with an absolutely outrageous handball. I have no idea. This is the thing. I think this is what people find annoying about refereeing, is that, oh, you can see like a really subtle double kick in a penalty shootout, can you, after a few replays, but you can't see a really obvious handball, which would have changed the total complexion of the game. And that was in the first half. And at that point, obviously, Atlético had already gone ahead because they went ahead like super early, courtesy of Conor Pitbull Gallagher.
Yeah, it was, we'll come to Gallagher in a second, but do you not think with the hand, if you were being charitable / playing devil's advocate / being a bit silly, if we're completely honest with ourselves, you would say that the ball hits the hand and then moves the hand further away from the body, so it looks worse in that trajectory?
I mean, my take is just a pretty simple one, which is
it was a penalty.
That is a handball. It's just a handball. I don't know how we can. The thing is, the rules are so Byzantine now. We can kind of tie ourselves into all sorts of different knots as to why one's given and one isn't. But that was a handball.
It's like that, you know, when you go to like a modern art exhibition, there's always one very similar piece of art where they've just got a lot of trash on sticks. And if you look at the trash from one perspective, it's just a lot of trash. And then as you rotate around, it's a man's face. It's very much that. It's just still trash. The rules are trash, and they've been contorted in such a way to kind of look like a rule, but it's just a collection of inadvertent and nonsensical pieces of trash.
So that's your explanation.
That's my explanation. I very much enjoyed that the ball boys were going crazy, like just throwing double balls on. I like that that's still happening at this level. We can talk about the VARs and stuff, but half the time there were two balls on the pitch.
It's a strange job, isn't it? Because they don't sit close enough to each other to communicate effectively.
No. But do you not think that was sort of deliberate? A little bit of Simeone, like
sometimes it definitely used to. Sometimes they'll chuck them on to slow the game down, or they'll be really slow on purpose or whatever. That particular incident you're talking about, I think that was just that looked to me it was just quite a chaotic night, and it looked chaotic. I didn't actually see the detail on it, but there certainly was at one point in extra time 3 balls on the pitch at the same time. But let's talk about Conor Gallagher's goal though, because it was a really early goal, apparently the fastest goal ever scored by an Englishman in the Champions League. It was a lovely kind of late run into the box as well, and you kind of thought at that point, okay, this is now going to be really interesting. But it's one of my pet hates when a goal in a game is scored really early and then there's no goals after that. It seems like a proper kind of dick tease of a fucking game.
Yeah. But I mean, out of the three sort of major fixtures in this tournament tonight, it was definitely the one to watch. Less so in extra time, but it really did sort of make you go, oh, I might stop watching the Villa match and watch this for a bit. But it was a hell of a performance from. I thought Conor Gallagher played really well. I think he's been playing obviously very well since he got there. I love watching English players go to the continent and perform at a really high level. But that doesn't mean they should be co-coms for the match some 20 years later. Luke, some thoughts on Steve McManaman's performance?
There's never been a bigger difference between how much I love someone as a player and how much I hate them as a broadcaster. I used to love McManaman. He's one of my favourite players.
I've said that about you.
Yeah, true actually, yeah. But the other way round.
What do I like better?
Yeah.